All right, everyone, we have to talk about Venezuela once again. Like every few weeks, it seems like something massive goes wrong. Now we've got a new reports out saying that a significant proportion of all the oil workers in the country have fled or just walked off the job. Here's why that is significant. Venezuelan economy, what is it? It's 90% oil. If the oil stops flowing, then you don't even really have an economy. It's not, oh, you have a flailing economy. It's not you have a depressed economy. It's not you have an economy that's, a razor's edge from collapsing. It's you don't even have one anymore. It's the only main export that Venezuela has. Now, what you've got is a situation where Venezuela's neighbors are building military encampments on the border just to keep people from taking like black market toilet paper and selling it at a massive markup in Venezuela. You might as well use toilet paper as currency. It's literally. This isn't a joke. It is literally worth more than the Venezuelan currency. Maduro's talking about, oh, we'll make like a cryptocurrency. People can then speculate on the growth of the Venezuelan economy. Yes, because sound investors who will prop up that cryptocurrency, and I'm sure it'll do just fine, are the sort of people who are going to buy into an economy that at any given time could implode because of a coup or because of a civil war. It was funny. Apparently, the new leader of their energy sector in Venezuela has no actual training in that sort of thing whatsoever and is actually a military general. This is the other problem of what Maduro's doing, and it mimics mistakes that were made in the past by different communist regimes or other far left governments. Typically what you get is the only way that you can get a population under hardline socialism or communism is if you've had some sort of situation in which you've managed to finagle your way into power. You've either fooled a lot of people or you've killed a lot of people. Usually you've done both. In those cases, someone has an inner circle or they have certain types of people that they simply like more than others. And so they sort of rig everything so that the people at the top, they're loyal. And so you have like a Pol Pot, he says, fuck the intelligentsia, death to the urbanites, I'm going to take a bunch of peasants, elevate them to the, it's not like they actually get rich. They just they get enough to eat without starving, basically. I'm going to take peasants with no literary training whatsoever, no training in anything other than I can grow a turnip, and I'm going to put them in as the heads of various bureaus. I'm going to make them my war generals. Those are the people who will lead the country. And so the country fucking collapses. You get this with Stalin, taking people from the lower classes that had any training at all and elevating them. Well, economically speaking, it doesn't fucking work. You've got Mao. He does similar things. The only times that you get successful far-left regimes that don't destabilize very quickly is when, at least for part of the economy, you've got people who are actually intelligent running it. Maduro's going in the opposite direction. In the wake of Chavez, you see, when oil sales were good, when oil was really valuable, Venezuela was rolling in dough. It didn't matter that Chavez made poor decisions because the impact was not immediately felt. It's sort of a delayed reaction to bad Chavez-era policy. But now the oil is worth less than half of what it was when Venezuela was doing well. They've also got more and more debt to make them higher and higher payments on, so that they have to inflate their currency. What's happened is that Maduro is taking basically people from the military, who he considers loyal. He's purging old guard military members. He purged the upper brass already and put in a bunch of cronies of his in the military. Now he's taking them, he's also appointing them to head these various bureaus. So the economy of Venezuela is being run by people who really, they know how to set up a pup tent, they know how to fire a gun, but they probably don't know anything about the oil process, which is the economy of Venezuela, in other words. They don't know anything about maintaining pipes or getting oil out of the ground, how it's refined, how, stocks and prices or anything. They don't know anything about this. They're just military brass. They're people who are in the Venezuelan military who, in many cases for political reasons, found themselves at the top. Some of them probably aren't even particularly good at soldiering. They just happen to have the right think ideas. We've got that problem here in the United States now. People who are otherwise very intelligent or well-trained, they have some opinion that somebody is offended by, so they're not actually allowed to do what they're good at. So you'd have some fucking rocket scientist who really, they should be working in a nuclear reactor, or they should be working on, they should be at fucking Area 51, they can't even get a job. because they had one opinion of theirs was offensive. It was outside of the Overton window. We've seen this before. You remember that dude from NASA? Part of that mission. I can't remember. Wasn't it when they landed on that comet there? I think. And he had an anime shirt on, and people were calling him like a sexist. It made the dude cry, and he has to come out and like apologize and stuff. It's like you couldn't begin to fathom this dude's job. This dude's brain is worth more than any dozen of these people that are complaining about him with their fucking women's studies major or something stupid like that. They don't know anything about his job. They should leave him alone. What he should have done is come out and say, fuck you. Yeah, when you can land a probe on a comet or fucking go to the moon or something, then we can talk about your stupid opinions. In Maduro land, we don't have, I guess, the problem of, offensive thing, therefore, this person who really should be generating millions for your economy ends up living in a fucking cardboard box down the road. You don't see that problem. What you see instead is the problem where someone who's qualified wasn't an early and often member of Maduro's party, or they said something, they made a joke about Maduro 5 years ago. Big mistake. Back when Chavez was in power, they were one of the people who was like, somebody else should succeed Chavez. They weren't one of Maduro's fans, so now they can't actually have the job that they're qualified for. It's a very inefficient way of doing business. It's also how the Venezuelan economy is going to die. Look, when the oil sector, which is the only big part of the Venezuelan economy in the first place, is ready to collapse. I mean, they've got rigs there. It's not like there's not oil to be pumped. They can't even afford to operate them. They don't have enough staff to maintain them all safely and keep them from blowing up or collapsing. They can't even get the oil out of the ground. It looks like the Venezuelan problem may in part be alleviated because oil prices skyrocket because Venezuela is no longer pumping oil. Then when it becomes better, all those people flock back in, they'll start pumping, the oil price will drop again. The country will probably collapse. It may get to the point where the Colombian or Brazilian military ends up having to enter the country because they're like, well, and we don't want, a nation that's, at least was developing for a while, to collapse back into total barbarism right next to us. We think that would be a logistic nightmare. What about as far as supplying the world's oil? I think the United States should hope for a good future for the Venezuelan people. My hope is that Venezuela becomes the next Saudi Arabia. It's way more efficient to get oil from this hemisphere in a country that doesn't sponsor religious zealot extremists all over the world. I think it would be wonderful to buy Venezuelan oil. Absolutely. I think it'd be great. Should have been in the plans for decades. But then they said, well, they're socialists, so we can't buy their oil. I think, didn't Chavez give, free oil to the New Yorkers that time? And they had, ads on there and stuff, and it was pretty funny. But, I mean, Jesus Christ, Venezuela has a huge amount of oil. It can't even pump it out of the ground. And it's the only thing they've got to export. If they had diversified their economy years and years ago when times were good, they wouldn't be having this problem. They'd be in a recession, but you wouldn't have people carving up and eating zoo animals. You wouldn't have people, their kids just got measles and fucking died, It's going to be difficult. Imagine if polio were to emerge right now in Venezuela, how difficult that would make things. People would be like, well, I guess mankind is just screwed. It's going to be a problem forever. By the way, that, what's it called, the guinea worm or something that Jimmy Carter's been fighting to eradicate, they kicked it out of the Sudan finally. So now I think there are only 2 countries left in the world where this particular parasite actually exists, because it can only survive when with humans around that have spread it. Humans are part of its life cycle. I guess it gets in your feet and then it hurts so badly you go in the water to try to scratch it out, and then the worms, the pussy lesions explode in the water, releasing new parasites. And I think there are only 2 countries left where it's present. There are only a few dozen cases at this point. They can wipe it out. I think Kenya is one of them. One of the few countries that still has this, the Jimmy Carter worm. I think it was the guinea worm, but I can't remember. That's about all. Peace out.